Morning, fellow Toastmasters. When I lived in Tallahassee, Florida, I worked at a mental health center. And 4 of my friends and I decided to form a dream group. We met for 2 years. Our dream group helped us to figure out what we wanted the most, our goals. One decided to have a baby, one changed jobs, and I moved to Atlanta. 4 years later, I moved back to Kansas City to be closer to my family. I attended a dream group several years later. It was a dream analysis class. And out of that class, we formed a dream group. And we have been meeting for 23 years. We are dream buddies and friends. I'd like to tell you a little bit about our dream analysis process. First of all, we ask somebody to volunteer to be our scribe. This is the person who writes down the dream, writes down the symbols and the events of the day. I'll give you an example of a dream that I had that would be one that we could have analyzed. I dreamed that I was flying on a kite with my dad. We had to land to adjust the tail. Dad tied some knots into the tail, and then we flew high to the sky again. And then we dipped down low, close to the cars and trucks and traffic. I had to concentrate on catching the wind. I was afraid we would crash. Now the scribe would ask, well, what were the events of the day? I visited my dad in the hospital. He had had a mini stroke. He was doing really well. He saw the whole thing as a challenge to be able to help and inspire other people going through the same thing. He was a can-do kind of a guy. He would make it happen. He had a joke that he would later say about that whole event of the stroke. He said he must be a computer. Things had gone haywire with him on the same day that the experts had feared that the computers would crash due to the date of 09/09/1999. Well, what is a kite? A kite flies high in the sky, catching the wind. It's colorful. There's a person on the ground who has a line that extends out and pulls back to help guide the kite. But we had no person on the ground in the dream, and we had no line. We were on our own. Describe Dad. Well, Dad smelled like grease. He was a mechanic. He could fix anything. People would come from miles around to see if he could fix their old car. If it didn't have a part that could be found, he often just invented one. He was a co-pilot in the Air Force during World War II. When he came back to the United States after the war, he landed in Maine and he kissed the ground. Years later, he was at an air show, and a man next to him said, well, do you think there'll be any other wars? And Dad thought about it, and then he signed up for the Air Force Reserves. He'd come home from the reserves and put his Air Force cap on my head. And we did fly a kite together one time. Describe you in the dream. Well, I was just happy to be with my dad, flying in the air on the kite. I felt safe with him, although we were in a predicament. I suppose he had trusted me as I was the pilot. We were in it together. Well, what's a kite tail? A kite tail adds stability to the kite. Dad tied knots in it to make it stronger. It's pretty in the blue sky as it moves in the wind. Dad loved planes, kites, birds, anything that could fly. Describe traffic. Well, traffic means that there's lots of cars and trucks, like on a street or a highway. We could have caused a wreck by falling in their path. We could have been hit. Be the kite. I hate being stored in the basement. It's dark, dirty, and lonely. I feel forgotten and discarded. Time is passing me by. I belong in the sky. I want to soar and be free. How will you honor this dream? Well, I think this dream is about Dad and his ability to take care of himself after the stroke. We're going to have to see, he's really creative and resilient. We'll have to see how he does, but he sees everything as a challenge. And I think that he'll want to be in control as long as he can. He'll want to be the pilot. So I'll be his co-pilot. I'll need to step up when he needs more care. And I want him to feel safe and loved and not like the kite who's in storage. We're in it together. We'll be a team and we'll catch the wind together. I was Dad's co-pilot until he passed away 10 years ago. He had a good landing.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much, Jane. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Okay, will everyone take a minute to send a comment to